So welcome to Careerist. Welcome everyone to lesson number 1. Today we're going to talk about career and job market overview. We're going to talk about software quality assurance, also known as QA, and we're going to talk about testing. We're going to talk about the industry. We're going to talk about the salaries. We're going to talk about what we actually do at work. And of course, we're going to answer all of your questions. Today, you're going to learn how you can get a 70 to 100K jobs in IT after just few months, after 6 weeks program, and after between 1 to 3, sometimes up to 4 months of active job search. And all you need to do is just to follow instructions. So, regarding QA, what is QA? QA stands for quality assurance. It's not questions and answers, it's quality assurance. And our purpose is to make sure that everything looks, works, and feels good according to the requirements, according to the design, according to the specs. So basically, someone creates, designs an application, for example. It could be a mobile application, like any mobile application that you have on your phone, like a dating app, or weather, or maps, or any other application that you're using, or any web application, like a website, like google.com, yahoo.com, careers.com. Someone designed it, someone created it, implemented what was designed, for example, developers, and we, QA people, testers, we make sure that what was created is according to what was expected, what was designed, what was in the requirements. In case that we see a mismatch between expected and actual results, we create bug reports or issues or defects. So basically, we don't fix problems, we only report problems. Okay, so it's very straightforward, it's very simple, everyone can do it, and soon you will see exactly how. So is this course for you? First of all, you need to be authorized to work in the United States. It could be a green card, it could be a US citizenship, it could be any kind of work authorization that allows you to work anywhere, anytime, without limitations and without sponsorship. For example, EAD asylum. You also need to speak English. People should understand you, you should understand others. You should be able to write and read and to communicate with your team. It's very important. It doesn't need to be perfect English. You can keep your accent. As long as people understand you and you understand others, you're going to be all right. You definitely don't need a PhD in English literature in that job. You also want to start a career in tech, because that's what we do. We help you get IT jobs. And you need to be ready to accept a job offer between 65 to 100K. Most of you are going to get 70 to 100K, which is $35 to $50 per hour. But sometimes exceptions happen. Someone will get 65K, someone will get 110K. Most of you are going to get 70 to 100K after this program. You are also looking to get a job within the next 2 to 4 months, because that's pretty much the time it's going to take you to get the job, as long as you following the instructions and you actively apply for jobs. Exceptions happen. Sometimes it will take you 2 weeks. Sometimes it will take you 4 months and 2 weeks. But usually it takes between 1 to 3 months. What you don't need any technical background, You don't need any computer science degree. You don't need to know any programming languages. You don't need to learn any programming languages on the level of manual testing, manual QA that we're going to teach you. You definitely don't need any of that. You also don't need to buy any equipment, like something special, as long as you can watch the lesson, as long as you can hear us and see us, you're gonna be all right. Of course, you need to be a good user, a normal user of your phone and of your computer or laptop. If you're not, it's okay. You can watch a tutorial for beginners how to use your iPhone or your Android, your Windows or your Mac on the level of a regular user, right? Awesome. Now, please bear with us with the questions. We're going to answer all of your questions at the end of the lesson regarding the details, regarding the course. Most of your questions going to be answered during the lesson. You will just get all the answers during the lesson. But if you're going to have additional questions in the end, we of course going to leave time to answer all of your questions. Now, let's talk about the salaries. According to Glassdoor.com, the annual salary for software QA engineer ranges between 65 to 100K across the nation. And the average salary across United States is around, we show here 97,000, but the recent one I saw was $99,000. Now we learned two things from that number. First of all, that the demand for QA people is huge and the market is very hot, because just maybe, I don't know, 5-6 months ago, the average was around $68,000 and it just jumped 30,000 more. Whenever the average was around $68,000, our graduates were making 70, 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, and 100K, because our graduates didn't really care about the average. We prepare you much better than the average, and we make sure that you impress the hiring manager much more than the average. Your resume looks better than the average, you prepared much better than the average, and you definitely know how to answer interview questions and to be more confident than the average. The second thing that we learn from that number is that average software QA engineer in the United States doesn't know any coding, doesn't know any programming languages, doesn't know any automation. How we know that? Because anyone who knows automation, who knows programming languages, he will not even talk to anyone for less than 110, 115K. 80% of the jobs are going to ask you in the job description for more experience, more knowledge, automation, programming languages, but 65% of those eventually will hire someone like you, because they will not find anyone doing that job with automation, with programming languages for less than 110, 115K. And that we, of course, witness that every day. We have graduates literally getting jobs every day. Just for the past 4 months, we had more than 200 people that got jobs across the United States in already 37 states. Just a month ago, right, like a few weeks ago, it was around 30 states. Now we have 37 states, and we are very proud of it. The benefits of QA jobs include: it's very easy to learn, it's very straightforward, you will witness soon exactly what we do at work. It's great compensation, 70 to 100K across the country. Lots of QA jobs around the US. If in the past I saw, I don't know, 600, 700, 800 positions in the big cities. Now I see 2,000, 3,000 positions. It's much more than ever before, and the demand is really nice. You can work remotely, which increases your chances to get the jobs because since the COVID, most IT, most QA jobs are remote. And now you can get the job anywhere across the United States. It doesn't matter where you live. If you live in Texas, you can get a job in Texas or in Florida or in California or in New York or vice versa, and you have much more opportunities than ever before. You also don't need a computer science degree, any technical background, and it's one of the happiest jobs in the US. You can Google it, happiest job, QA, Forbes, and you will see article about it. Also, it's a shortcut into the IT world, and you will have a lot of opportunities for career growth. And when we talk about the career growth, usually you have three options. One option is just to, basically stay on this level of manual testing, making your 70 to 100K salary and just enjoying it. But if you want to move forward, if you want to grow, you have two options. One is to become more technical, to actually learn programming language, for example, Python, to learn algorithms, and to learn automation, which is not going to be simple, and it's going to be complicated, but you will be able to make 110 to 170K after that. Automation, if you compare to manual testing, it's like manual testing, it's like kindergarten. Automation is like university. Manual QA you can learn in 1 month. Actually, you can learn it much faster, but to get the job, to prepare for the interview, and to pass and get the maximum rate, minimum time, you will need 4-6 weeks. In automation, it's different. Automation, you cannot learn in 1 month. You will need at least 4 months for that. And it's not going to be simple. It's not going to be straightforward. It's not going to be for everyone. 80% probably going to have challenges learning it or doing it because it's going to be not simple. Now, what we recommend is to focus, of course, first on getting the manual QA job, 70 to 100K, and only after to explore automation, and of course, give it a chance, but to keep in mind that it's not going to be simple. Before you get your first QA job, I recommend to stay away from automation like from fire, because it will just, you will just lose the focus and eventually will not get the results, getting the job, of course. Now, the second option that you have for career growth, in case that you're less technical, is to go to leadership, to become a QA lead or a QA manager, where you're going to have more responsibilities, more meetings, more headache, but of course, with the responsibilities, you will get more compensation. It could be between 100 to 180K for sure. So that's regarding the career growth. Let's talk about the job titles, because this profession is called in many different names. Our graduates are getting jobs with many different titles. For example, when I worked at Apple, my title was software QA engineer of second degree. But when I worked at Intel, it was test engineer. Before, I worked at Uyala, and it was senior functional tester. Before that, I was a software QA engineer in Cyan, Toyota Cyan. Before that, I was a QA tester at QVC. And you know what? I was doing exactly the same job everywhere. The same job that you're going to do and most of our graduates are doing. So you have different names for that job. It could be called QA engineer, quality assurance engineer, software test engineer, QA analyst, QA tester, manual tester, functional tester, UI tester, test analyst, QE, and many, many others. Of course, I will share with you the link to the Forbes article about QA being the second happiest job in the US. I will share the links at the second part of our lesson. Let's talk about the QA course by Careerist. What you get is basically an intensive practical training from industry experts. It's going to be live, it's going to be in Zoom, and your instructors, your teachers, are going to be the best of the best from the best companies in the world, like Google, Apple, Facebook, Intel, and many others that come here to share their knowledge, to share their experience with you, and of course help you get your maximum rate in minimum time without wasting your time, without wasting your effort. And of course, to make sure that you will avoid the mistakes that we used to have in the beginning of our career and the mistakes that most people are having during this job search. You're also going to get internships with references that will really help your resume, because nowadays nobody really wants to hire anyone without experience. That's why we will make sure that after you join the program and graduate the program, you will be able to join the internship. You will start getting your on-hand experience that will grow every month with your job search and will help you get the job as soon as possible. During this internship, you will basically practice what you learned. You will do web testing, mobile testing, you will write bug reports, execute test cases, write test cases, work in a team. You will know about your project, you will know about your team, you will use different tools, different platforms, different devices, and you will be much more confident to get the job. As well, we're going to help you with job applications, because we notice that many people are lazy or don't have time. That's why we apply for jobs for you as well, up to 40 positions per day, to get you more phone calls, more interviews, and eventually, of course, more job offers. You're also going to get convenient online sessions like today's, and whenever you're going to graduate the program, you're also going to have one-on-one sessions with mentors. Each and one of you are going to have his own mentor who going to basically work with you to make sure that you're following the instructions, that you prepared well, that you sound good, that you sound confident. And once we make sure that, we definitely going to help you with the resume, with the LinkedIn, with the instructions, with the support, with the job applications, and much, much more. So I'm going to talk about the prices at the end of very soon. Actually, not at the end of the lesson, very soon in details. And I want you to understand that in case that you're going to choose the income share agreement, our guarantee is that basically you pay us nothing but a small commitment fee or a registration until you get hired. In case that you're going to choose the income share agreement, you just pay a registration fee, and after that you don't pay anything else until you get the job. But I'm going to talk about it in details very, very soon. So let me introduce you our instructors, our teachers. We have Patrick Siebenthal with more than 6 years of experience working at Facebook, Intel, at Google actually, so he's been around. We have Lana Levinson, a senior software developer in test and a QA guru in automation with more than 8 years of experience of quality assurance. We have Ignacio Britos, QA engineer, QA manager with over 14 years of experience. We have Hezron Padlan with more than 12 years of experience working at the AT&T, Bank of America. We have Olga Chabanova, also very experienced QA engineer. By the way, guys, you're welcome to see more about our experience and our background on LinkedIn. We also have Nick Haradze with over 6 years of experience in QA, working for various Silicon Valley companies. We have Alex Rastovich with more than 7 years of experience, QA engineer, QA manager at United Power and other Silicon Valley companies. Vitaly Yerokhin with more than 7 years of experience in quality assurance, working at Indeed and many other companies. We have me, Max Lubochansky, with over 7 years of experience. Actually, it's more than 8 years. I will fix that, of experience in quality assurance at Apple, at Intel, and many other Silicon Valley companies. Today, you're going to meet Yuri Sokolov with over 8 years of experience in quality assurance. Currently, he's a QA lead at Google in Mountain View, California, and he's going to take the second part of the lesson. Our graduates work for some of the world's most innovative companies, like Uber, Apple, Facebook, Intel, Samsung, AT&T, Google, Salesforce, Chase, Visa, Oracle, Walt Disney, Dell, Snapchat, Nike, and many, many, many others. We have graduates working in more than 400 companies already in 37 states, and we are very, very proud of it. Whenever you're going to graduate the program, you will get access to our community where you will witness dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of testimonials of our graduates that are going to share with you their success stories, how they got the job, how was the interview, what they were asked, how long was it, and basically how they were able to get those 70 to 100K jobs by just following the instructions. You will get access to all of those after you graduate the program. Some of the graduates just, they don't want to put it publicly on our website, so they prefer to share it in our community among other graduates. Also, you can read a lot of reviews about us on Google, on Facebook, on Course Report, and many other platforms to better understand who we are, what we do, and of course, you are welcome to see more success stories and testimonials in the link below that I will share with you as well. You see this map? It's actually outdated. We will update it very soon. We have already 37 states. Not 30, we have already 37 states where our graduates are working. Overall rule across the country is that you can get anywhere in the US 70 to 80K, $35 to $40 per hour. But if you're gonna look for a job in the big cities, you can make up to 50 per hour, up to 100K. For example, in cities like New York, New Jersey, Chicago, Seattle, San Jose, San Francisco, LA, you definitely can make up to 50 per hour, up to 100K. Exceptions always happen. For example, in San Diego, our graduates are making around 70 to 90K, which is 35 to 45 per hour. Same goes in Boston, Massachusetts. And for example, in Florida, we have graduates making 70 to 80K, but just recently we had graduates getting 90K, 100K, and 110K in Florida as well. Cincinnati, we just had someone who got 115K. So exceptions do happen, but overall rule is what I mentioned before. Now, let's talk about what we actually do at work, because most of you probably not really sure what is it, what we do for 70 to 100K. Let me show you. I will share my screen with you. Boom. I hope you can see the screen right now, and we will just go through the main things that we test. So usually the most important is functional testing, to make sure that everything works according to the requirements, everything functions. So for example, if we go to Shop Now button and we click it, we expect it to take you to the appropriate shopping page, right? So let's click the button, nothing happens. This is a functional issue. So the most important issues are functional issues, if something works or not. I will give you an example. If you go to a menu and you click the drop down menu, it should collapse and show you the menu. If it doesn't, that's a functional issue. If you have a mobile application and you install it and you try to access it, but the application crashes, this is a functional issue. So if something like that happens, we definitely report that. Now, the second thing that we test is how things look. We call it UI testing, which stands for user interface, or GUI testing, graphic user interface. Basically, I will show you some examples. So this website is example of e-commerce website. I'm sure that you saw such websites before where you can order something, add it to the cart, and remove it from the cart and basically ship it, right? So you can make it favorite, you can, scroll it, you can choose what you're looking for. So let's talk about how things look. In this case, you see this model on the right, her face is covered. We can call it truncated or cut off, or actually it could be covered with this element over here, so it even can be overlapped. For example, like here, if we hover the mouse over the model on the right, you see Real Men's Fashion. Please focus on the letter N. Once we bring it here, it covers the N letter. So this something we call overlapping, okay? Whenever one element hides another or covers another element. It could be a text, it could be a button, it could be many different things. For example, text over text, or button over button, or text over button, or stuff like that. So this is overlapped. This is cut off, right? We cannot see her face, and it looks weird. Of course, we want to compare to the design to see how it's supposed to look, but because we don't have the design right now, we will just assume that something is strange, something is weird here, and we will report it. Maximum, the developer gonna close it and say, you know what, it's supposed to be like that. But most likely it's not, because it looks strange. Now, we talked about cutoff, we talked about overlapped. Let's talk about misaligned. For example, over here, you see this field over here? This field and this field are misaligned. They're not appear aligned. Or those checkboxes on the left. We would assume, according to UI standards, that they will appear on the same line. They will be aligned. But no, they look weird, they look chaotic, and it definitely doesn't look organized and clean. Okay, so that's something we call misalignment. Another example of overlapping you can see here, whenever text overlaps a button or a text overlaps a text. I'm sure that you saw that before. Now let me show you an example of how we actually write the bug reports. Let's assume that we go to the design document, which is usually a PDF that shows us exactly how the website should look like, or the mobile app should look like. And in that design document, it tells us that it should show 2019 models, 2019 Yaris, 2019 86, which is also known by FRS, and 2019 Corolla. But you see, it shows 2020 instead of 2019. Now, what we do in such case? We report that problem. First of all, we want to create a screenshot of what is the problem to make life easier for developers. On MacBook, we just click Command-Shift-4 and we choose the area, we select the area that we want to screenshot. Boom, it's saved on your desktop, and now you can attach it to your bug report. If you have Windows, you just can go to Start menu, search, snipping tool, and you will be able to use it to create screenshot as well. It's very simple, very straightforward, If you don't know how to do it, you will learn in exactly 5 minutes. Now, next thing we do, we go to reporting. Now, we're going to teach you how to use the most popular bug tracking system in the world called Jira. All you need to know right now is just this create button. That's how Jira looks like. We click the create button and it opens a form. This is the bug report. In this form, we fill the fields. First of all, the project name. Let's call it demo because we just practice. Issue type going to be bug report because that's what we do. We write bug reports. As QA people, as testers, we write bug reports. The next going to be the summary, which is the title. It should be short and informative. It should show everyone what and where is the problem. I already showed you the problem. Let me just show you again. The 2020 Corolla hatchback should be 2019. So we just fill out the title and we write homepage 2020 Corolla hatchback model should be 2019. Okay, very, very straightforward. Next is description with steps to reproduce actual and expected behavior. So, for example, step number 1, go to this link. You see, this is the link of Toyota Scion. Next, observe 2020 Corolla hatchback, actual 2020, expected 2019. Okay, very straightforward. You don't need a PhD in English literature to be able to write it. Next, we have the priority. How important is problem to the company? Because Toyota is one of the probably the most popular car in the US. It will affect millions of customers and probably will affect millions, if not 100 millions of dollars. That's why the priority is very important because we don't want to disappoint the customers. And it will be a high or highest priority because we want to address it and fix it as soon as possible. We don't want to have mistakes on our website. Next is the environment, basically where the issue was reproducible. If you found it on your MacBook, of course, you can go here about the Mac and just fill out the form with the model of your Mac, the version of your Mac OS, the browser version. If you found it on Windows, the name of your device, the Windows version, the browser version. If you found it on your phone, if it's Android, you just write the name of the device, the Android version, the build version if it's an application, the browser version if it's a mobile web application like a website, and if it's an iPhone, you just fill out the name of the iPhone, the version of the iOS, the build number, or the browser. Okay, you don't need to put all of that. You can just write the environment where you found it. It's just an example. Now, next thing you do is you attach the screenshot or video recording. We're going to talk in our next lessons about the log file as well. So, for example, you just click the browse button and you attach the image that we just screenshot, right? Before I created the screenshot, it was saved on your desktop. Now you just attach it to the bug report. And finally, you have the assignee, basically who's going to take care of the problem. Usually going to be working with 2, sometimes 3 different people, developers. Someone will take care of mobile bugs, someone will take care of the web bugs, someone will do front end, someone will do the back end. You're definitely going to know who to send it after a few days or weeks at work. So just for example, we're going to choose my name. And long story short, we have project name, issue type, which is bug report, title, which should be short and informative and should show everyone what and where is the problem, description with steps to reproduce, actual and expected behavior, priority, environment where it was reproducible, and attachments, screenshot, video recording, if necessary, even more. We're going to talk about it during the lessons, but it's very super simple. Finally, we just click the create button and boom, we just created our first bug report, guys. That's how it looks: the title, the description, the environment, assignee, reporter, the attachment that we just saved, right? We just click it and boom, it shows us the area where we have the problem. It will just make life easier for developers. Of course, you can leave your comments if necessary. That's how bug report looks like. I was wondering, guys, was that complicated? Was that something that you feel worried about? Do you feel that you need to learn 6 months how to do it, or 6 years? I don't think so. It's very simple. It's very super straightforward. And guess what? That's what we actually do at work. That is what we are being paid 70 to 100K, 35 to $50 per hour. It's not something new. It's been around for the past 20 years. And now you have demand for that job more than ever before. Welcome to our world. Now, you don't need 6 weeks to learn how to do testing. You can learn how to do testing in 2 hours, maybe 2 days. The problem is not doing the job. I want you to understand that. There is no problem doing this very simple job where you just follow instructions. The problem is getting the job. The problem is getting maximum possible rate and minimum possible time without wasting your time, without wasting your effort. And that's why we are here for. We're gonna help you and support you and teach you how to avoid the mistakes and get this job as soon as possible without searching it for 6 months, for 6 years, and without wasting your effort. Now let me show you. You know what? Before I'm going to show you some of the websites that I mentioned before, I want you to understand that 80%, sometimes even more, of what you're going to learn, you will never need at work. Like many different other professions. The things that you learn, not necessarily you're going to need at work, but you might need it during the interview. You might need it to get the job. That's why we're going to teach you much more than you actually need in order to impress the hiring manager and to get this QA job. Now, let me just show you a few links. Here is the average salary on Glassdoor that I mentioned before. As you can see, in the United States, it's around $99,000. Regarding job demand, if you search, for example, on Dice.com, software QA engineer, you will see thousands of positions almost anywhere in the United States. For example, Atlanta, more than 3,000 positions. You can check your area letter. But again, it doesn't really matter because you can work remotely and you can apply for jobs remotely across the United States. For example, Chicago, more than 3,000 positions. New York, more than 3,600 positions. LA, more than 3,100 positions. San Jose, of course, San Francisco, and you will see thousands and thousands of positions across the country. Here is Forbes. Second happiest jobs in the United States is QA. Also, I highly recommend you to read the article from Forbes, 9 reasons manual testing will always be in demand. Very good article, will open your eyes about this industry. Awesome. And of course, you can read more articles about us to see that we are real, to see that we are a YC company, which is the best accelerator for startups in the world, and to see many different articles about us. Now, let me get back to our presentation and move forward. All right. So what you get is 4-week online program, after which you will join 2-week minimum internship that you can also do remotely, and you can you must be there at least for 2 hours per day, at least for 2 weeks. But you're welcome to stay longer if you want to be more than 2 hours. If you want to be more than 2 weeks, you're welcome to be part of the internship until you get the job. I don't think that you will need more than 2 weeks to know what to do at work and to be confident, but you can be part of the internship until you get the job, so your experience will grow every month with your job search. The lessons are going to be live, but in case you cannot watch them live, you can always watch the video recording that's going to be sent to you after the lesson, like today's. You're also going to get the video recording of today's lesson to your email. If you cannot find it, you can always check your spam and promotions folders. After you graduate the program, you will have one-on-one sessions with the mentor that will support you and will guide you and will make sure that you're following instructions, that you're confident, that you sound good, and you're ready for the job search. Once you're going to be ready for that, he will or she will help you with the resume, with the LinkedIn, with all the instructions and support of your job search until you get the job. The lessons going to be Sunday to Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, of course, all you need to do is just to follow instructions, to be nice, to be friendly, and to follow instructions. We're also going to have the job application services where we're going to apply for jobs for you, up to 40 positions per day. So you will get more phone calls, more interviews, and eventually more job offers. You, of course, also can apply by yourself. The best is to combine both our job application services, which is part of the program, and the job search by yourself to get even more calls, even more interviews, and even more job offers. Now let's finally talk about the prices. Just before the prices, I wanted you to know more about who we are, what we do, what is the job, and all all the background. Now we have few different options. One option is to pay upfront $2,499, after which you don't need to pay anything else. You just pay upfront and you don't pay anything else. That's the best option, the best deal, the best investment of your money, the best value. I highly recommend the upfront. But in case that you cannot afford upfront, or you're not sure that you're going to follow the instructions, in this case, you have another option, which is called Income Share Agreement. We also call it ISA, which basically allows you to pay registration fee of $899, after which you don't need to pay anything else until you get the job in IT. Once you get the job in IT, you pay us 15% out of your salary before taxes every month at the end of the month for the first 24 months, as long as you work. If you stop working or paused working, you stop paying until you get your next job. Okay? So you pay only as long as you work. Of course, ISA gonna be more expensive than the upfront. So you choose the option that works best for you. I highly recommend the upfront option, but some people prefer the ISA. Some people prefer to pay only after they get the job. Some people prefer to pay the upfront. You choose whatever works best for you. In case that in the future, after getting the QA job, you want to join our automation program and you choose the income share agreement, you will be able to join that program. All you need to do is to add additional free month to your contract. So for example, if you have 24 months and you decide to join automation, once you join it in the future, you just add additional 3 months to your contract. In case that you want to pay upfront for both manual testing, manual QA, and automation, you can do it by paying $5,999, and you will get both. Of course, automation, you will be able to join after you get your first manual QA job, making 70 to 100K, $35 to $50 per hour, or after actively searching and following instructions for 4 months. But again, I recommend to join automation only after you got your first job. So don't forget, the income share agreement and the registration fee or the upfront are going to be due by noon tomorrow Pacific time. I will share all the links with you. If you're going to have any questions, any personal questions, you can always email advisors@careerist.com, and I will share the link to the contract very soon. Here it is. Boom. All you need to do is just to click the Get Contracted Invoice button, click the Get button, and choose the option that works best for you. Also, I will share with you a link to our survey. We always try to become better and better, and we would love to hear your opinion and your feedback. Now, the fun part starts here, and please let me introduce you our instructor for today, Yuri Sokolov, the QA lead from Google. Yuri, how are you?
I'm doing fine, Max. How's everyone doing today?
We're doing awesome. And guys, Yuri gonna take the second part of the lesson. He will teach you a lot of fun, awesome stuff. And in the end of the lesson, I will join to answer your questions. I remember that you have a lot of questions, and I would love to answer those. Yuri will answer your questions as well regarding the material of the lesson, regarding the course, regarding the other questions. I would love to answer all of those at the end of the lesson. All right? Awesome. Yuri, the class is all yours.
Well, hello, everyone. So happy to see you today. How's everyone doing today? Awesome. So first, let me start by introducing myself. I'm sure you've seen, maybe some of you already met me during the webinar, but if some of you, I know that it's your first time seeing this video, so you don't. My name is Yuri Sokolov. I've been working in quality assurance for quite some time. I've been working as a QA engineer for more than 8 years now. Currently, I'm working as a QA lead at Google, and I work for many different companies in Silicon Valley, doing manual QA, mobile QA, web QA, automation QA, management. So I've been around for quite some time for many different projects. I've been working with Careerist for 2 years now. I'm currently the head of the manual QA program here. So some of you asked the question if this class is live. Yes, this class is live, as all of our classes. So all the lessons are going to be live. And that's a great benefit because you will be able to talk with the instructors, and our instructors are all QA engineers, mostly in Silicon Valley or any other major companies. So it's a great perk to have because you'll be able to ask any questions that you'd like. So first of all, let me tell you a bit about my experience with the QA. So before I found out about the career of quality assurance, I was not a technical person. I did not have any computer science degree, and I did not have any prior experience working in tech. My degree was in design and arts, or visual arts, and I was never a coder or a developer. And just after a few months of similar training, and because I had a lot of friends working in QA back in the days, I got introduced to this career. I got introduced to this profession of quality assurance engineer, and it literally took me a few months to get a hold of it and to get my first job. So guys, let's make this class interactive. Feel free to ask any questions in the chat room regarding this subject. So today we'll start with our first lesson, and we'll talk about what is the quality assurance engineering. Like, what is this? I see there's some confusion in the chat room about the manual QA, automation QA. What's the difference? Why do we need to learn this and not that? And what's going on, right? So today we'll discuss all of this. So let's start with the basics. Like, what is software quality assurance in general? QA, SQA. So quality assurance is an umbrella term for different processes. The processes which are included into production or development. Let's go over the development process again. Okay, so software development process. But before we even talk about the software, let's even get away from the software, because some of you may not be familiar how software development works, or how the companies develop software. So let's get away from that for a second. Imagine any production or any development outside of tech, right? Outside of software development. Let's pick a furniture factory, right? The factory that produces chairs, for example. So first, someone needs to come up with the requirements, right? Someone needs to come up with the blueprint. So product people, designers, architects or whatever, they come together and they create this definition of what they need to build. Like a chair, there's a necessity for a chair. So product people, designers, they basically create a blueprint for a chair. Then the chair, this blueprint, needs to be created in the form of a prototype. So engineers then, based on the blueprint, based on the requirements, they build this prototype of a chair. So what happens next? Okay, we have a prototype. What happens next? Before we would go into the mass production, before we would start selling this product to our customers, produce millions and millions of units, we need to test it. When we test, what do we test for? There are many things we need to test for, but everything is based on the requirements. So we need to test how well this chair is built, how many people can sit on this chair, what's the max weight of that this chair can handle, what is the, how many people can sit on the chair, how stable is this chair. Then, after testers or people who are responsible for quality assurance of a chair provide their sign-off, chair can go into the mass production. Why? Because it was tested. It was tested, and QA department signed off on the quality of this product. Coming back to software development, the process works absolutely the same. So any development, any production you take, the process is the same. So first is someone needs to create a blueprint of a software, or we can call it a prototype. It's also created based on the requirements that product people, designers, engineers, business people, they would come in together and they would outline the list of things that this, let's say, new screen or new feature, new application needs to have. For example, the Facebook needs to add another page, like, or the functionality, like go on live or share images. For each of the step, which is called a feature development, the process goes the same way. So someone designs it, someone develops it, developers, right? And then QA engineers need to make sure that whatever the company developed, whatever the software engineers developed, satisfies our acceptance criteria or quality assurance criteria to be then released to our customers. So SQA is a big umbrella term for many different things, but the idea behind it is that everything constitutes the quality of our final product. Software quality assurance is the process of monitoring software engineering procedures and methods to ensure quality. It's as simple as that. Okay? So let's talk about the main question. Is there such a thing that a software which does not have any defects? I'm sure that all of you at some point of your life was using a mobile application, or you were using a website, and something did not work, or something didn't do the way, some software didn't work the way it's supposed to work. The button wouldn't function, the web page wouldn't load, the button wouldn't click. In our line of work, we call it a bug. A bug, it's like a slang term for an issue or an error or a flaw. So something doesn't work or doesn't look the way it's supposed to look. So the way the software is created, right? Let's think about the software as hundreds and hundreds of different lines of code, right? Behind all the interfaces, behind all the buttons and menus, there are thousands and thousands of lines of code. So developers, what they do, at a certain point of time, they create a functional version of software. So maybe you saw, the versions, that every product has a version, every software has a version. Your iOS has a version, your Android has a version, your Windows has a version, right? So that version is basically a fixed condition of a software that was developed, tested, and released. So I will answer the biggest question that you may have is there such a thing of having a bug-free software? Is there such a thing that at some point our application will not have any issues at all? And the answer is no. There's no such thing as a bug-free software. There's no such thing as a issue-free application or a product. It is not possible to create software without having bugs. Why? Because every time, every minute, there are hundreds and hundreds of developers sitting and changing the lines of code. Excuse me. So that's why the role of quality assurance engineer or QA tester is essential, because there's always going to be changes to the code. And if there's always going to be changes to the code, there's always going to be errors. That's as simple as that. So the point of QA, or the point of testing, is not to catch all the bugs, is not to file all the bugs. It's not, it's impossible. We already established that. But we need to make sure that all the critical problems, that all the major bugs are caught during the testing and are not available to our customers. Why? Because it can save millions and millions of dollars to the company. I'm sure you've seen a lot of problems, even with the Facebook recently. Remember, there was a big outage like a week ago or so. Billions of users were not able to use Facebook. Why? Because there was some error. There was some, we can call it a bug, even though it was probably more of a technical hardware problem rather than a software. It was a combination of both. But that itself costed Facebook $10 billion. Yeah? So some of you asked the simple and very, very logical question: why would a company pay someone $100,000 a year to make, to do the simple job? And the answer is, again, pretty simple and pretty straightforward, and as logical as well, because they would rather pay, to QA engineer $100,000, and maybe they have a QA department of 100 engineers. They'll pay $10 million, so that they will never, or they will reduce the chance of having that issue, which will cost them $1 billion. It's as simple as it gets. It's very straightforward logic. They would rather pay $10 million to their QA department, to the QA engineers, rather than facing 100 million or billion of dollars in losses just because they didn't test it well. They missed that bug. Does it make sense, guys, what I'm trying to explain here? Does it answer your question? Awesome. Great. So what QA engineers do? Again, what do we do? We test whatever the software developers created. They give us a build or whatever the working version, and we perform certain testing, certain testing things, right, to be tested. Usually it's organized, straightforward, it's not complicated, but it saves a lot of headache, and it saves a lot of trouble to the developers, and it saves a lot of time to everyone else, because QA departments, they are specifically there, they know what to do, they know what to click, they know what to expect. So software quality assurance engineers overview and participate in the entire software development process, which includes requirement definition, design, development, testing, release, deployment, and maintenance. So what is the software testing? Software testing is just one of the parts. It's one of the phases of quality assurance. Quality assurance is like a bigger umbrella for many different things. Testing, it's the phase where we come in and we physically compare the software that we get to the requirements. So we always compare the actual software in front of us to the expected behavior. If I know that clicking on this button, I should be taken to this page, that is my expected result. And my job is to click on this button and verify that I am taken to this page that exactly like I'm supposed to. Sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes we encounter issues, we encounter bugs. It happens a lot. So guys, remember, you are using software already in the end of the chain. You are the final users. So are using the final versions. So by the time you get the software, it's already been tested. And even after it's tested, you still have problems. You still have issues. So can you imagine how many issues we see during the testing cycle before we would release it to the customers, before we would release it to the users? All right, so let's talk about what is the software testing. Guys, is everything all right with my connection? Because I see some comments that there's a problem with my connection. Do you see me well, hear me well? Okay, great. All right, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So again, what do we do by testing, right? We identify the correctness, completeness, and quality of the software. So QA engineer performs the testing, and we perform the investigation. And this investigation provides the important information about the quality of the software or the service that we are testing. So software testing provides an objective and independent view of the software, which allows the business to appreciate and understand the risks of implementing the new or changed software. So let's summarize. What is the difference between QA and testing? Software quality assurance, or QA quality assurance, is preventative. It's a system that analyzes the whole process of development, software development, starting with requirements. It always tries to prevent things from happening. So we would analyze the software before testing sometimes to know what to test, right? So we will try to prevent errors from happening. We'll try to adjust our scope of testing to better cover certain features or applications or websites or mobile applications. And testing is physical process of comparing when we have a product in front of us. Does it work like expected, or it does not work like expected? Essentially giving us either a passed scenario or a failed scenario. It's very simple and straightforward. Testing involves verifying software to detect the difference between its actual and its required behavior. Remember what Max did during the first part of the presentation? He created a bug report. So bug report, it's something that comes out when there's a mismatch. When there's a mismatch between expected and actual result, we supposed to file it as an issue. And that's basically a part of the testing. Do you have any questions, or so far so good? All right, let's continue. Now, let's talk about the manual testing. Manual testing involves actual human being, myself or yourself, an actual person that will do 99% of the job. So manual testers, so it's an approach, right? It's an approach of testing when there's a physical person checking things. Manual testing is the process of finding the defects and bugs in application. In manual testing, the tester acts as an end user. So we act as an end users, meaning that we have an interface to test. Everything is ready. We're not looking into the code manually because it's not necessary. We are performing the job of all the users, right? But we obviously much better trained than the regular users. And we have access to the software before it goes to the end users. So that's our benefit. So in manual testing, the tester acts as an end user to verify that all the features of our application are working correctly. Again, if we see a difference, we treat it as a bug. A bug report is created by the tester and sent to developer who fixes them. Then what we do, so when developer fixes the bug, right, our job is to verify that the issue is no longer reproducible. Talking about what we do manually, how do we test? Because testing is not just, sometimes it's not just physically testing. It involves other, phases or responsibilities. Like we need to verify that developer fixed the problem. So developer will come up with a newer version of the application. We know that in previous version, the button didn't work. So developer will fix it. And again, how does the developer fix it? They change the code, because every problem that we see in a software, it's because there is an issue in the code, most likely. That's like the main reason. So when developer fixes the code, they create a new version, and we're supposed to test to make sure this issue doesn't happen anymore. So the goal of software testing is to ensure that the application has no major defects, as few minor bugs as possible. The software should be working to sufficiently high standards that is acceptable to the customers. Guys, for manual testing, why is manual testing is an important thing? I'll tell you why. It's very simple. Before, let's go back, 50, 60 years ago, right? There were like 10 companies, 10 big software companies, like IBM, Microsoft, Apple, Sun, or I don't know. There were like a dozen of the big ones, right? And they would create a software. And the way they would create a software, they would spend a year, right? They would spend a year on development. Like they would come up with the, Windows version every 3 years or so. So They had time to develop. They had, a year to develop. They had another 8 months to test. They had another 6 months to test again or to fix problems. It was pretty laid back economy for computer companies. But now, if you're a teenager, if you have a MacBook, literally you're a software development company. No one stops you from downloading the software development kit and creating the software for yourself and uploading it to the iTunes. That's why the companies these days, they release their software much more often. So it's pretty common, it's pretty standard for software company to release their software somewhere between every 1 week, to like every 2 weeks, maybe once in 3 weeks. Once a week, it's pretty common these days. So think about it. Who's the best person? Who's the best mechanism? What kind of best mechanism you can get so that someone will come in, will analyze the software, will test the software, will go through the requirements within a period of a couple of days? Humans are by far the most superior organisms on Earth, right? Or the mechanisms on Earth. We can come in, we can analyze the problem within 30 seconds, even though we may not, fully understand the requirements, but we are developed with our eyes and brains and common sense and logic. We can quickly jump in, analyze the software, the web page, the functionality, and perform some form of testing. So human intervention needs to be ongoing. That's why manual testing is by far, for now, much more superior to automation, because there's nothing faster than the human brain in order to jump in, to understand the problem, to understand the software, to understand the behavior and see if it works okay or it doesn't work okay. We call it a human judgment. Same thing with automation. It will take 100 times longer to do the same thing in automation. And I'll explain what is the automation, because I know there's some misconception about what's the difference between manual testing and automation. So I'll explain. I worked as a manual tester for more than 6 years, and I worked as an automation engineer for more than 2 years. But first, let's go back to manual testing. When do we need manual testers? And by manual testers, I always mean us humans. So when you think about manual tester, think about when you're like a unit that performs all the testing by yourself. The first is requirement analysis. Sometimes developers, the designers may need manual tester to come in, look at the scope of new page or new feature, and provide their feedbacks like, well, how long does it take for you to test? Or what is can you give us a ballpark of how long it will take for you to test it? Or like, how many people do you need to test this feature? Usually done by leads, but it doesn't matter. It's a physical manual labor. So requirement analysis, that's when we come in. Then we can do a thing called test playing. Test playing also usually performed by the seniors or QA managers, QA leads. But basically what test playing is assumption on what we need to have in order to prepare ourselves for testing of this new application. For example, if you would work on, if you would work like on Facebook, right? And your company would decide to add this new feature like Facebook dating. I don't know, Facebook just recently added their own version of dating websites. I think they want to compete with other like Tinder or something, right? So they would create the requirements, they would outline the scope of work, and then they would say to QA manager, QA lead, or maybe multiple leads, they would say, well, let's come up with a test plan. And test plan, it's a planning document. It will outline the amount of work, amount of hours it will need in order to test something, amount of engineers, QA engineers, those that will be testing, right? So it's a planning document. After that, we go into the test case creation phase. So what is the test case creation? Is when we know the requirements and we create short user stories. They're called test cases. For example, if there is a button, in, let's say, in our requirement document, or let's say in our design mock, there is a button which basically says, if you click this button, it should take you to this action or to this page. So the test case will be a story to check this button, right? So verify, clicking this button takes us to, to this page. It's very simple, it's short, and the test cases exist to document the testing efforts. And believe me, guys, in this course, we will write plenty of those. They are fun to write. They are, it's one of those creative parts of being QA engineer. And by the end of it, you're going to be a test case creation guru. Okay. So after we have test cases, we test. That's the phase comes in when we actually test the product. We report bugs and we verify the bug fixes. Do I have any questions at this point, or everything seems pretty straightforward? We can continue. Who creates the test cases? QA engineers create test cases. That's absolutely normal. For now, don't think about test cases. We will cover this topic extensively. Don't get fixated on it. We will cover it. Now, let's go back. Let's go back to my favorite subject, the manual testing and automation testing. So think about it, guys. Manual testing, it's the approach when a person manually verifies that the application works as expected. So how do we do it? Let's say we have test cases, or we have our intuition. We can perform many different types of testing on the software. But usually we are based on our test case efforts. For example, we have let's say your website, like Google search, right? You have a Google search website. How do you test Google search? How do you test it? What kind of test case can you create to test the Google search? I think it's simple. So first, you type in the query, and then second step, you click on the button, right? Search icon. And then what do you have? You have an expected result. So you expect something to happen. And what do you expect? You expect the Google to provide you with a list of test results. That is the definition of the test case, or example of a test case. How long does it take for manual QA engineer to execute this test case? Think in your heads. Well, just calculate. How long would it take for you to go to the Google, to type in the query, to click on the search button, and verify that you see the list of the results? How long would it take? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, maybe less, right? Yes, it will take you seconds. Now, what is the automation QA? What is the automation QA? All of your answers are correct. It takes seconds. Automation QA is when QA automation engineers, they take manual test case, so the same test case we just went through, and they use a scripting language. They use code, they use frameworks, they use, there's so many different technologies that you can use to automate the test case, which is, again, as an umbrella term, is called automation. So automation testing has very little to do with actual testing. It's not testing. Automation, it's a knowledge, an approach, and a set of tools to take the manual testing efforts and turn it into the script so it can be run automatically, right? Because once you automate it, so the test case will be executed without human intervention, without manual labor. So guys, do you see the difference between automation and manual testing? Those are not like different types of testing. Those are just approaches to testing. So when you say, oh, I want to do automation testing has nothing to do with testing. Think about it. Automation has to do only with your knowledge of how to, transfer manual steps into the code. In fact, you don't even need to know. I mean, of course, it would be beneficial to know QA, but if you know the code, you can perform automation testing, which will not make you a good QA. So there is a biggest catch among those two things. All right, so I'll tell you another story from my experience. For me, let's take the same test case. For me, as a QA engineer, right, for manual testing, it would take like 5-7 seconds to perform this basic Google test case, right? So I would go in, I would type in the query, I click on the search icon, I will look at the test results. Do you know how long will it take for me to automate it? It will take for me at least, so for the basic test case, it would take me at least 3 hours to automate it. And then I will need to debug it because it needs to be tuned in or tuned up, whatever the word is, right? So I will run it multiple times, and I will spend many more hours to debug it and to try to fix it. And the funniest part, when I will run it automatically, right? If I will want to execute it without the human, it will take somewhere between at my job, it will take probably about 1 minute and 30 seconds to execute. Clearly, you don't use people for that, but it doesn't make it more efficient, right? The same task case that a person will need 5 or 7 seconds to execute will cost the company in hours of QA automation time, and plus it will take more minutes to execute. So automation, it's still a really good technique. It's still a really good approach, but it's efficient, or it's what's the other word for it? It pays for itself under certain conditions. So feel free to look at the slide and see the pros of manual testing and automation testing. Honestly, I don't really want to spend too much time on it, because the one thing you need to remember, if you learn how to code and you would be able to write the scripts or QA scripts in whatever the language you prefer, it will not make you a good QA engineer. So if you want to explore, which probably should, it's a good technique to have, it's a good knowledge to have, of automation testing, first, you need to learn the basics. It's foundation of QA. And the foundation of QA, it's manual testing. And then if you are tired of doing manual labor, or if you're more technical, you're looking for coding challenges, feel free to explore automation. But don't be surprised when your automation job will end up being much less of a QA, but more just going through scripts or fixing typos, fixing errors in the scripts. It won't even be a QA. Some people like it. We have plenty of people, myself included. I went to the automation after 5 years of manual QA and being QA lead. It's fine. It's absolutely fine. Some people don't like it. It's up to you. The choice is yours. But don't rush into automation, because most likely you won't understand it. First, finalize, solidify your knowledge in manual QA, and then move into the automation. Again, certain pros and certain cons of manual testing, they exist, right? And those both techniques, they're amazing. They work well for their purpose. If you create a software and you need to someone jump in and to test it within the next few days, like the new feature, the new screen, there's nothing better than manual testing. You won't have time to automate automation tests in 2 days. It's just impossible, physically impossible. So if your company creates a new software or new page, new feature, only manual QA will jump in and perform testing as quickly as possible, and they will notice as many problems and errors as they can. Automation will not do it. But sometimes, let's say your application has a very repetitive old functionality, like, I don't know, login. Like when you go to Facebook, there's like a login option. Or you go to Google, there's a Google sign in option. Those things, they've been there for years. They rarely change. Once they created their login or sign in functionality, they probably won't touch it because they don't really like to touch those things. So that is a good candidate for automation. It's something that won't be changed, and something that's been there for years, something manual QA engineers don't really need to spend their time on, right? So that's a good candidate for automation. So you might as well automate, 20, 30, 100 test cases for login or registration and just run them. Glad to see you too. Thank you. So again, let's not focus on automation and manual, because this is course about the backbone. This is course about the foundation and the manual QA. All right. So far, so good. Awesome, guys. So let's continue. Let's talk about the subtypes, or we can call it the types of testing. QA has been around for decades. The first QA practices, they've been implemented, and I'm not even going to talk about software here, but the first QA practice has been implemented like 100 years ago, right? Let's talk about the software. The first software QA practices, they have been implemented probably, I would say, 70 years ago, right? When they started developing computers. So they started potentially, technically at the same time, somewhat test their products. Basic level, then more advanced. And then when, I would say probably about maybe, 40 years ago, when we would have software in somewhat of a modern form, we can call it this way, they would start creating an actual quality assurance approaches. They would start categorize types of testing. They would start creating books, how to test. And after that, there would be a book that would come out, and there's going to be an author, and the author would create like 20 different testing types. And in 10 years, there's going to be another author, and they will come up with their own book, and they would create their own 10 testing types. And within 50 years, we would end up with having hundreds of different subtypes of testing. A lot of those are pretty artificial. A lot of those overlap, but there are certain ones that are sort of well established ones, and you can perform testing without knowing those, so you can do your job. I was working as a QA before I learned all those testing types. For 5 years, I was QA lead by then, and I didn't know 95% of them because it's all theory. It has, very little to do with practice. But since we know that you will eventually go to the interview, or you will eventually have a conversation with the hiring manager, you need to know the basics. You need to know the most important testing types. So we will go over some of them today, and we will continue going over more of them tomorrow. But again, guys, it's going to be a lot of information. If you don't understand something, or if you didn't register something, that's absolutely fine. First of all, we'll come back to it. And second of all, it's not that important to testing at all. So let's start with the basics. If you have questions, please type in the chat room. First one, the holy grail of QA: black box, white box, and gray box types of testing. Long story short, black box testing is when QA engineer tests application without peeking into the code. So majority, or the majority of manual testing falls under the black box category. We don't really get into the code. We don't need the code. We don't have time to get into the code. Why would we? So it falls under the category of black box. The white box, it's another approach which does exist. In white box, there are certain QA engineers that basically don't need to test. They don't need buttons to test the software. Us, we need a button, we need an input field, we need a UI, user interface. But for white box engineers, they don't. They are pretty close to developers. So they know the code, and they would create their tests based on the code. They don't care about the UI. It's a different type of testing, very kind of a niche type of a testing, very specialized. Automation doesn't always fall under this category. Keep that in mind. A lot of the automation happens with the help of a UI, with the help of a user interface. They just automate the manual actions. So white box testing is something very, very specific that some QA engineers perform, but they need to be really, really coding savvy, we can say, right? So they're very close to developers. And there's a gray box with a mix, it's a combination of two. If you can pick into the code, but you also have an access to UI, so you kind of can combine both. Keep that in mind, guys, that this is something that you will have to memorize eventually, but it's an easy concept to memorize, and you will have the presentation, and I'm sure it's not going to be a problem for you. More testing types. Functional and non-functional. I will provide an overview of these two, major parts, and then we'll talk more tomorrow about subtypes. So first, I'll read the definition, then I'll explain the difference. I'll give you an example to better understand the difference. So functional testing is testing what the software does. Do I have Can you hear me okay, guys? Everything is fine? Yeah, good. All right, let's continue. So functional testing, it's a testing. So functional testing answers the question what the software does. What we do when we test functionality, we test the software based on its functional requirements, or we call it specifications. So we are verifying how compliant it is with specified functional requirements. Okay? So I'll give you an example. Let's go back to our example of Google search, right? We already covered it. We have, let's say we are QA engineers and we have a test case. We need to test that the Google search works as expected, right? So what do? We would execute the test case. First, we would go to google.com, yeah? Step number two, we would type in the query, whatever, any query. Number three, we would click on the search icon. And then there's going to be an expected and actual result. So from the functional point of view, what do you think is going to be our expected result from the functional point of view? How can we say that this test case passes or it doesn't pass? What should we expect to happen? Yes. So if we see the list of results or consistent, relatable results, yeah, we say that this functionality works. So the test case passes. Yeah, this is what we expect. Yes, you guys are right. Absolutely. Now, let's talk about non-functional testing. I'll read the definition, then I'll explain I'll show you the example. So non-functional testing, it's a testing of a software application for its non-functional requirements. The non-functional testing answers the question how well the software functions rather than does it function or not. How well does our software function? Coming back to our first test case, when we will test the Google. So performing the same steps, but to check non-functional requirements or to check non-functional criteria, we would perform the same steps, but we would check to verify if it passes or not. We would check for different criteria. We would check for different things. For example, how long does it take for Google to produce the list of the results? Or how many results does the Google produce? Or, how relevant are the results? Right? So do you see my point? Yeah? Do you guys understand the difference? The non-functional criteria, we will check how well our system works versus functional. We only care if it works or not. And obviously, this concept, it's very, very high level concept. There are another 20 subtypes of functional and 20 subtypes of non-functional. I'll tell you right away that you as a manual QA engineer will perform mostly functional types of testing. Non-functional, they will require certain tools and knowledge to measure things, because you cannot measure, it's not easy to measure the response time or the amount of results. It will require you to use certain applications. and that usually is performed by other people in the company, those who have access to those tools. So manual QA engineers, they don't really care for it. We mostly care for if it works or if it doesn't work. You know, we don't have time to measure efficiency. We have time to measure if it works or doesn't work. It's good enough with us, and then others can measure if it works or not. I'm sorry, if it, how well does it work. All right, guys. So remember, I told you that there are many different subtypes of testing, right? In fact, there are 100 of them probably by now. They keep adding new things, which I don't even keep track of. So there are many different subtypes of testing, but as a manual QA engineer on daily basis, you will be performing only few of them, which is fine. So this is something you will need eventually to understand and memorize, although it's just a theory. Theory will, it's amazing if you understand it. If you know the definitions, but you as well can be a great engineer without knowing the definitions. You just know what to do. Well, let's go over these three, and that's going to be enough for today. Okay, those three are important, so please, guys, pay attention. We want to make sure that you understand all of them. So let's start with the first one: exploratory testing. I'll read the definition, then I'll explain what it means. Exploratory testing is an approach to software testing which focuses on discovery, learning, and investigation, and relies on creativity, experience, and intuition of individual tester to quickly uncover the defects, and often described as simultaneous test design and execution. My question to you: if I will give you, let's say, I will give you a mobile application, a mobile device, a smartphone, and there's going to be an application in it. Let's make it something like Instagram, right? I'm sure all of you know what the Instagram is. And I'll tell you to explore it and to test it. What would you do? Like, how would you categorize your testing? How would you approach it? Assuming you don't really know this application, you are not a QA engineer. What would you do? It's a very logical question with a logical answer. So the first thing you do, you will explore it, right? And the way you explore it, you will click on all the buttons. You will try different actions. You will read at the menus. You will read at the titles, and you will, in your head, in your brain, without even having requirements, you will create a map. You will create a schema of this application without even having, like a test plan. After 30 minutes of using Instagram, you will have a really nice understanding of what this application is designed to do. What are the main features? What are the main features of Instagram? Upload pictures, add filters, share, share images, liking images, commenting images, or commenting likes. That's it. There's literally like 5-6 main functionalities. How much of a genius you need to be to understand how does this application work? And after you explore the application, you can, in your head, again, create the test. You can analyze the application. You can create the test plan in your head. So that's exactly what exploratory testing is. It's basically using your experience and your common sense and logic and knowledge to test the software without even having requirements, because requirements are not always there. some of you may say monkey testing. It's a bit different from monkey testing. Exploratory testing, it's a bit more structured because you'll have a structure. Monkey testing, the pure form, the pure point behind monkey testing is just to break things. It does not follow any logic or any pattern. Exploratory testing actually can't even be documented, and it follows the pattern, but it's exploratory. So I'm sure, do I have any questions about exploratory testing, or it's pretty self-exploratory? All right, so let's move to the next one. These two are specific. So smoke testing, I'll read the definition, then I'll explain. Smoke testing covers the most, smoke testing covers the most important functionality of a software and verifies that the software appears to work correctly. It precedes the actual in-depth testing and aims to verify that the build is deployed successfully and that all components are running and ready for the actual process. So remember, guys, I told you about the process, how developers, they add some changes to the code. And then they create a build or a version. And version is sort of like a finalized condition of a software. It's not really a prototype. Prototype is something that is created in the first phase, right? But the version, it's like a finalized condition of a software. And the version they can create every hour or every day. It doesn't matter. It's just going to be the most recent changes to the software that they exist. You know how to see the version like 1.5.2, then 1.5.3. Then 1.6. So every version is the most updated condition of the software. So the smoke testing. So after the developers created this initial version, and the way they created it, they call it a compilation. So they have all these hundreds and thousands of lines of code, and they have to compile it into the executable, into the actual application. If you use the Windows application, if you use the Windows operating system, you know the executable, right? The exe file. If you use any other application, there are different executables, but those are the compiled version of a software. So you as a QA engineer, before going into the in-depth testing, and I already told you that in-depth testing can take days. We go through all the test cases. We try to break the software. We try different approaches. It's pretty documented and it's pretty structured, but it takes a few days. Many QA engineers do take a few days. Smoke testing, the purpose of a smoke testing is to try and play with the most important functionalities of a software to make sure that nothing obvious is broken. And I'll tell you a really cool story. So we'll have it's a time of a history. The term for smoke testing was developed probably like 70 years ago. It takes us back to the first production lines, first production facilities or the factories where they would create home appliance or electronics. And the first test they would perform on their finished product is to plug the unit into the wall outlet. So the factory would develop toasters or the ovens or refrigerators. So the first test they would do, they would take the unit they just assembled and plug it into the wall outlet, if they would see the smoke coming out of the unit, it means the smoke test failed, right? Because there was clearly something wrong with the unit. They didn't even have to test it. They performed a very simple and quick check to make sure if it works or not, right? If the smoke comes out or not. So smoke testing in software comes exactly from that era of testing the home appliances and electronics. The job of QA engineer when we need to do smoke testing is to spend maybe 30 minutes tops and to click on major most important functionalities of a software. For example, if it's an Instagram, right? What we would check when we talk about main or most important functionalities: uploading photo, login, taking photo, applying filter, sharing, commenting. That's it. That's it. Those are the main functions of an application. We would spend maybe 20 minutes tops. But what will it show us? It will show if the application is broken or not. Why do smoke testing exist? Because the highest chance of an error or like a major bug to happen would be right after the compilation of developers. So instead of going into the detailed testing, we would perform a smoke testing. We would take an application and we would spend like 15, 20 minutes just playing around major functionalities. Because if something obvious, if something major would be wrong with that particular version, you would see it right away. You would see a smoke coming out of the device, figuratively speaking. Does it make sense? And after the smoke testing, if we see that nothing is obvious, we don't see anything obvious, it means that it passes the smoke test and we can go into the, in-depth testing if we need to. Awesome. Cool. So let's finalize the regression. Regression testing ensures that new changes in software do not break any existing functionalities. This type of testing verifies that features that used to work still work. Regression bug or issue is a defect which did not exist as an earlier version of a product. So again, let's take a software like Instagram, for example. Let's say you're working for the Instagram. Regression testing would mean that, let's say you would have a list of test cases, right? And you'd create list of test cases for the software. It can be pretty long, right? It can be like 500 test cases, 1,000 test cases. It will outline the pretty much complete behavior of a software, all the major scenarios. So let's say 3 months ago, you released the version where you can like someone's photos, right? And you knew that this functionality worked. So you tested it every 2 weeks or every 1 week, and you would like someone's image, you went through this test case, it worked, because you have to retest all the test cases before the release, usually, which is pretty convenient, actually, because you don't need to be super creative. You just go by the list, with the list. And this the new release is coming up, and you test this liking the photo, liking an image, and for some reason it doesn't work. It's an error, an application crashes, phone starts to burn. It doesn't work. What does it mean? It means that our application regressed. It used to be working fine. We know it because it's been there for months. But for some reason, it doesn't work. At this point. So Is regression testing same as retesting? Not necessarily. Retesting can be applied to a new functionality. When, for example, you test a new functionality that wasn't there before, but you need to retest it multiple times, which is a common thing. Because sometimes you need to retest it to make sure, after 5 attempts, it won't produce the bug. Regression only means that something that used to work, we know it, doesn't work anymore. It usually goes in the context of a full regression. As you can see, guys, all those types, they are kind of common, right? They're somewhat similar. We're doing some form of an action, some form of a testing that are kind of similar. But the difference is that we perform those types of testing in a different time point, the point of a time. Exploratory testing we perform when we don't know the requirements or application. I'm sorry, exploratory testing. Yeah, the smoke testing we perform right after developers came out with the new version. And regression testing we perform at the end when we're about to release the software to the users. So we call it a full regression software testing. When we have, like, let's say 500 test cases, and we would go test case by test case to make sure that whatever used to work still works. So we don't really care about new functionalities at that point. The only thing we care at the end is that those things that used to work are not broken. The idea behind all of this, of course, is to catch bugs, to catch the problem, the issues, the problems. And all these efforts are somewhat documented. So it's not going to be really monkey testing. It's not going to be, exploratory testing. Everything you're going to be do on a daily basis is going to be well defined and pretty well understood by you and your peers and your management. So you won't be really lost, regardless if you know what the smoke testing or you don't know what the smoke testing is. Do you have any questions about regression testing approach? Okay. Amazing. Well, congratulations. With this lesson, you're one step closer to becoming a quality assurance engineer. Tomorrow, we'll continue talking about more types of testing and more things, of course. So thank you, Max.
Very much, Yuri. I will take it from here. Thank you very much. So guys, I want to repeat, there is no problem doing the job. It's very simple, and you just follow instructions and you speak English. The problem is getting the job. Whatever we saw right now is more of theory, of the terminology, for you to understand how things are called and how things are basically, the idea of different types of testing, different approaches, software development life cycle, different definitions. But at work, you don't need to keep that in your thoughts too much, because at work, you're just following instructions that in most cases, someone wrote you before. So for example, we discussed test cases. 60% of you will never need to write any test cases. Like I did, I never wrote any test cases. Why? Because I came to the company and someone wrote those test cases long time before you joined. For example, we're going to teach you basics of API testing and SQL testing. 95% of you will never need to do it. But 3 out of 10 interviews might ask you about it, which means that 70% will not ask you about it. Different types of testing that are like white box testing or gray box testing, most of you, 95% of you, will never need to do. But you still need to know about it and to be able to answer about it. Okay? It's very important to understand it, that most of the things that you learn is just for you to become a better professionals, to understand the industry, but at work, you will just pretty much do what we showed you before. Testing the functionality and testing the UI, testing how things work and how things look. Mainly, it's going to be executing test cases that someone wrote. In some cases, in let's say 40% of the cases, some companies will also ask you to write these cases, but it's going to be very straightforward, and we definitely going to teach you that as well. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify that. Now, as I promised, I'm going to answer your questions. Just in case you're going to have personal questions or you're going to have questions in the future, you are welcome to email advisors@careerist.com. And also, I want to remind everyone that you have the Get Contract and Invoice button below that you can click and choose the option that works best for you, so our career advisors can get back to you and answer your questions and help you choose the option that works best for you. I see that most of you already clicked it. Thank you very much. And now let me answer your questions. Just please bear with me. I see a lot of questions. Let me just answer one by one, okay? Cool. Do I need to know IntelliJ, Selenium, or something like this in order to work as manual QA? Of course not, because Selenium is for automation, and in manual QA, we don't do any automation, we don't do any coding. How many jobs in QA are now available as remote work versus a year ago? So, guys, since March 2020, more than a year ago, most QA jobs, most IT jobs, most of our graduates are working remotely. I don't have the exact number, but if you want to understand it, it's probably around 80% remote, 20% on site. It might change with the time, but you still gonna have a lot of positions that are gonna be remote because companies and people are getting used to remote. They love remote. It's efficient. They don't need to pay for the offices. They don't need to pay for the commute, and it's awesome. There is a support after you get the job. Well, yes, it's not something that is part of the program, but we decided to do this as an extra. We do have people that help you after you get the job. They can answer your questions. They can give you advices. What I see is that you very rarely need it because we teach you how to do the job, how to get the job, and in most cases, you just follow instructions and everything is very straightforward. Let's say I remember maybe, I don't know, for the past 2.5 years, maybe 10 people that asked some basic questions after they got the job. And of course, we help them with that. But if you just focus and you listen carefully to the lessons and to your managers, you will not need that support because everything will be very straightforward. I don't recall. Okay, I do recall. Let's say like this. I remember out of more than 400 people that are working, 2 cases of people losing the job after starting the job because they were not capable to do the job. Now, 2 people out of 400, it's less than 1%. So exceptions happen. You always can have a crazy manager, an awful team, sophisticated, complicated product, but 99%, more than 99%, will not have those issues because everything will be clear, straightforward, and if you're just following instructions, and you listen and learn well, you will not have any problems doing the job. Will my resume show no experience at all? Of course not, because nobody will hire you if you show no experience at all. That's why you're gonna get the experience after you graduate the program, you join the internship, and you practice what you learn. Your experience will grow every month of your job search. And for example, you're gonna search for a job for 2, 3, up to 4 months. You're gonna have real on-hand experience. You'll be able to tell about your project, about your team, about what you do at work, about testing different platforms, different devices, iOS, Android, Windows, Mac. We will teach you about ADB, about Linux, about SQL, API, web testing, mobile testing, Chrome DevTool, browser stack, and much, much more. So you will be able to impress hiring manager to get the job, and of course, to do the job. Why? I'm just trying to shorten the question. Why so much job? Oh, okay. So basically, why you jump from job to job in your experience? Because that's the best way to get more compensation. In a normal company, when you work, at the end of the year, you might get a raise of, let's say, 5%. But if you jump from one company to another, you can get 20%, 30% more. Okay, that's the reason why it's highly recommended not to stay at one place for too long. And of course, we're going to teach you that. We're going to teach you how to get, let's say, if you get your first job as, let's say, 70K or 75K, we will teach you how to continue the job search and ask for 90K and 100K at other companies. And of course, how to get it. Who are eligible for this course? Any pre-qualifications required? Anyone that has work authorization that allows you to work anywhere, anytime, without limitation and without sponsorships. For example, EAD asylum, or a green card holder, or a US citizen. If you don't have work authorization in the United States, this course is not for you. The only exception will be people in Canada. We just had a graduate from Canada who got a job, 75K. Let's see. Are we going to have access to lectures after the course? Yes, you will be able to have those and rewatch if you will need. Do we get templates for test cases? Yes, of course, you will learn how to write test cases. 60% of you will never need it, but some of you might. Awesome. How would we separate ourselves from other manual QA testers in the field? You probably, okay, you just want to understand how you will be better than others, how you will get the job before others. So by being very well prepared for the interview questions, by having the nice LinkedIn, the nice resumes, by double checking how you sound, how you confident, and how you basically look like before the interview, and by, of course, applying for multiple positions, because we're going to make sure that if you follow the instructions, after 2, 3, 4 months, you will have more than 2,000 positions that you're going to apply for. Out of those, you will get between 4 to 10 interviews, and if you're going to just listen carefully, learn well, you will get at least one job offer. All you need to do is just to follow the instructions. Cool. Today's lesson going to be recorded and going to be sent to you. Lesson number 2 going to be tomorrow. In order to join it, you just need to click the Get Contract and Invoice button below and get the contract. I see that most of you did it already. Let's see. Example, please answer. Example, woman, 61 years old, without college degree, computer literate yet, no tech experience. What are the realistic real-world chances of success that someone of this stature will be interviewed and hired remotely as a QA tester? Ageism is real, especially in this type of field. I agree with you. I can tell you that we have graduates from 19 to 60 years old who got jobs. You know what? I think we had one who was 65, 60 and 65 in Atlanta, Georgia, and in New Jersey, who got around 80K. Now, ageism happens. We are not ageist. Everyone is welcome. But I can tell you that, basically the best age for this type of job, by my view, is between 18 to 50, 55. But again, it's not about the age. It's about your confidence. It's about you following instructions and about you fitting culturally with the company, because everyone now loves diversity. So many companies going to hire people with different age groups, different backgrounds, and you will be able to get the job as well. Now, what worries me is if you are not going to be a good user of your computer, of your mobile phone. Now, if you're going to be a good user of your phone, of your iOS, Android device, your MacBook or your Windows, or at least you're going to watch videos of tutorials how to use those, and you will become a great user. Okay, you don't need PhD in how to use it. You just need to be a normal, good, average user. In that case, you will not have problems, and if you will not think about your age too much, you will definitely be able to get the job. Maybe for those that are over, let's say, 55 or over 50, it might take more than 2 months, more than 3 months, maybe even more than 4 months, maybe 5. But eventually, if you're going to be positive, following instructions, prepare well, and confident, you will get the job as well. Okay, so that's the realistic situation around the age. We had graduate 19 years old who got 75K. We had graduates 60-year-old who got around 80K, and I'm pretty sure another guy was 65. I don't remember exact age right now, but I think it was 60 and 65. Awesome. Cool. Please answer, will jobs in QA sponsor H-1B visa? No, they will not. Foreign education and work experience, how possible is it to get a job in the US? If you don't have work authorization in the US, it's pretty much impossible. I don't mean to sound rude, but it seems to be too good to be true. Being able to land a job after only few classes with no experience. Quick search shows that most jobs require experience. Great question, Carlos. So, whenever I got into QA, it sounded to me too good to be true as well. I saw this article from Forbes about one of the happiest jobs in the US, and I became very curious. And then I found out that it's real. 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour sounds like too good to be true to many people. But when you look into the IT industry, you understand that it's not too much. In the IT world, 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour, it's definitely not a lot of money. And because this job is in the IT, you get more than in different other fields like service, customer service, sales, in most cases. And our graduates are witnessing that every day. We have graduates getting jobs literally every day. For the past 4 months, more than 200 graduates got jobs across the country in already 37 states. You can read our reviews. You can go to our Google, Facebook, Course Report, other places where you have reviews and witness that as well. So you just need to follow the instructions and you will see the results. Now, this is truth that most companies are going to require more experience, more knowledge, but you will witness soon and you will see that many of those will eventually hire people like you. Why? Because most people in the IT world, they understand how simple, how primitive manual testing is. They understand that anyone can learn it in few days. Maybe some people will think that it's few weeks. I believe you can learn it in few days. And because of that, they mainly want to see that you are serious, that you know the basics, you know what you're talking about, you are positive, friendly, you're nice to work with, and you will not ask same questions twice. That's what they want to see. They want to see that you're confident doing this job, executing these cases, writing bug reports, and once they feel that vibe, once they see that you are capable to do this job and you're confident, they will give you the chance to get this job in many cases. Now, it's totally fine that most companies, most jobs will tell you, sorry, we decided to move with someone else. Sorry, we hired someone with more experience, or sorry, you don't fit, or sorry, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter, because whenever you apply, not for 10 jobs, not for 20 jobs, but you follow our instructions, you prepared well, you have a nice resume, nice LinkedIn, nice preparation, you have the experience from your internship, and you apply for multiple jobs, and we will make sure that you will have thousands of jobs that you're applying for, you will get multiple interviews that will get you the job. That's how it works. Most people are not aware of it. That's why we are here for, to help you and support you with that. What are the hours and days of the internships? So guys, it's remote and you can choose the days and the hours that work best for you. You can definitely discuss it with the lead of the internship, and he or she will do their best to, basically find time and days that work best for you. We have a lot of graduates that are still working in other jobs, or they have, families, kids, and they're busy, so they usually find the hours and the days that work best for them. So the questions gonna be asked in the chat, and we gonna answer during the lessons with our video and the voice. What if you change jobs? Do you still keep paying? So you keep paying in case you choose the income share agreement, just as long as you work in IT. If you stop working, or you change to other job which is not QA, not IT, you don't need to pay anything until you get your next IT job. Do you get JAS if you don't do income share agreement? JAS is Job Application Services, where we apply for jobs for you. Yes, you will get Job Application Services in both cases, if you choose upfront or if you choose income share agreement. Whenever you choose the upfront, you will get the Job Application Services for absolutely free for the first month. After the first month, if you follow the instructions and you are nice and friendly, and you will need more, we will do our best to give you even more of the job application services, to get more calls, more interviews, more job offers. After 2 months of job application services, you most likely will be able to get the job, and of course you will continue applying for jobs by yourself. But if you will need more, then job application services will be basically will be for I think $499 in case that you want to continue using the job application services, but you don't need to. If you want, you can continue just applying by yourself. We will recommend applying for between 20 to 40 positions per day, and you will definitely get the job. If you will want us to apply for you for up to 40 positions per day, then after 2 months, you will need to pay that in case that you choose the upfront payment. In case that you choose the income share agreement, the job application services will be free for you during your job search. And if you're going to follow the instructions, you will not need more than 2, 3, 4 months to get the job. Of course, you need to follow the instructions. You need to be prepared. You need to be in touch with the mentor. You need to make sure that you have the correct resume on LinkedIn and that you are ready to pass the interview in order not to waste your or our time. Awesome. Do we get some sort of certification when we complete the curriculum? Yes, you are. You're going to get a certificate of completion. But guys, I want you to understand it. You don't need any certificates in QA in the United States. You might need it in Australia. You might need it in Belarus. You might need it in Africa, maybe even UK. But in the US, you don't need any certificates in QA. You will always have someone who will try to sell you those certificates, but you will never need those. What you do need is to show that you know what you're talking about, that it's confidence, it's a nice resume, a nice LinkedIn, a nice preparation, and applying for multiple jobs. That's what you need. I don't really know anyone in QA having certificates or being asked to provide certificates. Yuri, myself, any one of our teachers or instructors, I don't really think anyone has any certificates in QA because nobody asks those. Let's see. If I have a home in the US and get a job here, can I work from various international places? Is there any reason traveling internationally for extended time cause any issues? So yes, in many cases, the company will not like you working from other countries outside of US. But again, exceptions happen. Maybe your boss, your manager will really love you and like you, and you will tell him, hey, I want to go to work from Europe, for example, and he's going to tell you, well, okay, as long as you're going to do the job, I'm going to be fine with that. But I believe that many companies will not like that. Why? Because in other countries, they can hire someone for much less. That's why if they already hire someone in US and they pay 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour, they probably want someone here. Could you please talk about the difference between quality assurance and software engineering? You probably mean software QA, right? Between QA tester and software QA engineer. That's probably what you meant. Omakoji, I hope that that's what you meant. So in many cases, there is no difference. It's just the name or the title. In some cases, there is a difference. So for example, many positions in software QA engineering might ask you for automation, programming languages, but they're going to ask for it, and many will hire you without it because you will just do a simple QA testing job over there. Some companies will actually need it, and those will not hire you. But we don't worry about those because we focus on those that will hire you. For example, when I worked as software QA engineer of second degree, I was doing exactly the same type of job like any other QA tester. And of course, our graduates are doing same type of job that we discuss here today. If I'm hired for a job for 6 hours a day, am I allowed to take another one with a different company? Well, by law, you might not be allowed, but I know people that do and work in few different companies same time. Do you teach advanced QA like you said just now? Yes, because I said it. We have manual QA and we have automation QA. You should stay away from automation like from fire before you get your first manual QA job making 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour. After you get your first QA job, then you should definitely explore automation. 80% will have challenges learning it and doing it. Does automation QA have higher salary? Yes, like I said before, in automation you can make from 110 to 170K, but it's not for everyone, while manual QA is for everyone, where you can make 70 to 100K, 35 to 50 per hour. And yes, we will provide you support during your first month at work, and even longer. We have sometimes like people after, I don't know, a year working in the company, they just contact the support and ask for advice about this or that matter, but it's very, very rare. Cool. Awesome. Guys, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm going to share some links that I already shared before with the contract, or you can just click the button below with the syllabus, with our email, and of course our graduate success stories and the feedback survey. In case you will not see our email, please double check your spam or promotions folders. Thank you very much for being with us. I hope to see everyone tomorrow at lesson number 2. In case that you still don't have any questions, please email advisors@careerist.com. Thank you very much and see you soon. Bye-bye.